Good morning. Whoop. Good morning. I think I'm on. I've gone through all the do not. Sorry, I might have gone. All right, I think we're good now. Sorry. I don't know if I blew the countdown clock. I didn't see the countdown clock, but there you go. Welcome. Again, I'm Price Bell, and welcome to our Thoroughbred Nursery, Mill Ridge Farm. Here, we're with two of our youngest foals who, I hate to tell you this, but I'm not exactly sure which one's which. But I want to say that this is one of my favorite views of the farm because we sit atop some of the higher land in Fayette County. We are here in Lexington, Kentucky, and Lexington is a place that was founded in the 1770s, 1780s, and a place that for the last, I guess, nearly 170 years has been the greatest nursery for thoroughbred racehorses and horses in the world. Mill Ridge was started by my grandmother in 1962 on land that her father left her. Her father was a gentleman named Hal Price Headley, and he farmed about 4,000 acres, predominantly cattle, corn, and horses were his pastime, and in thoroughbreds particularly. And thanks to a gentleman named Matt Wynn, who is the president of Churchill Downs, who sold the idea of Kentucky and the Kentucky Derby being the premier race to win in the world. That inspired many of the people of New York who were raising thoroughbreds and who loved racing horses, many of them to come down and establish Lexington as their nursery. Well, we Kentuckians were here and have been here since the beginning of Lexington, and we sure enjoyed being able to, I guess, show off our horsemanship and our husbandry and compete with, I guess, the wealthy New York money that we're really making the sport of thoroughbred racing what's become known as the sport of kings. So over the next 30-45 minutes, we look forward to sharing with you some of our new mares and foals, sharing with you about our Kentucky Derby connections, and hopefully becoming part of your Kentucky Oaks Day tradition. I'm going to wander here into what we call our hickory field. Admittedly, it's a bit of a misnomer name because the giant hickory tree that once stood in the middle fell a couple years ago, but we still honor it with the same name, hickory field. So Mill Ridge Farm. Hey, Lori. I would love to give you some advice. This year is a wonderful race. And I think that there's a couple horses that are particularly interesting that will have a dramatic effect on the setup of the race. As you think about the Derby, the horses start at the top of the stretch and they run a quarter of a mile to get to the first turn. And during that time, they're all trying to get the closest to the rail, because the closest distance around a circle is along the inside rail. And this year, you have two horses, Epicenter and Summer is Tomorrow, who both are very quick horses, particularly Summer is Tomorrow. And so both Summer is Tomorrow, who's outside of Epicenter, will be really trying to outrun Epicenter to the rail position. And Epicenter will have a choice of either going with him or holding back and trying to take a similar position, but just not in the first position. If he holds back and settles, then the race may set up very well for him. If he goes forward, he may use his energy too quickly and not have enough down at to finish the race. With that said, I feel that the race should have a very good pace, and with a good pace, it should set up for horses who are used to running at a hot pace, particularly Zandon and Mo Donegal. So if I were, those are two horses that I'm particularly interested in playing. So this is a mare. So what we do, to kind of back up, what we raise are thoroughbred horses. And thoroughbreds, and this mare's name is Jewel Thief, and this is her daughter, whose father is named Volatile. And she's a mare that we own as a farm, and we own with some of our good friends and partners. Jewel Thief was recently bred, and we were waiting to count days to see if she's in foal to a very exciting young stallion named Maxfield. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I like to start about the thoroughbred. So the thoroughbred, which is the breed of horse that we raise, is a breed of horse that was developed in England, particularly in the 1770s. In England, they had been breeding horses that were either quick cavalry horses, or they were breeding horses that were stock horses that helped plow fields. And the quick horses, they valued quickness and agility. And they didn't necessarily value endurance, because they were bred for European battles, where they would set up battle lines, and you'd charge, get back, get on a fresh horse, charge. And so quickness and agility were the traits that they cared most about. And as such, this is a daughter of a mare named Wild Silk, who's owned by some very dear friends of ours in Cincinnati. And so I'll jump around, but what we do, so as I've mentioned, so far we've met two mares. We as a farm own one of them, and the other is owned by a client who pays us a day rate to take care of their horses. This mare, Wild Silk, is currently in foal and not this time. So this is her Oscar Performance baby, who I'll share more about Oscar Performance in a minute. But this is her Oscar Performance baby, and she's currently in foal to not this time, who is the father of Epicenter. And this little guy, oh, don't do that. We do not. I love you, but I don't have hooves to give you high fives. You see, he wants to, he's ready to play. Isn't he handsome? What a look. So thoroughbreds, getting back to it, as the English were developing overland trade routes to India and China, they came across the Arabian Peninsula, modern day Saudi Arabia, etc. And there they met Bedouin people who had been breeding horses, Arabian horses, that had great speed, great endurance, because they were nomads who wandered the desert in search of water, food, and shelter. And so endurance was the trait that the Bedouin people were breeding. When the English came across the Bedouins and developed a relationship with them, they imported 3 of their stallions to England: the Darley Arabian, the Godolphin Arabian, and the Byerly Turk. And it was through breeding these Arabian stallions with the quick and agile mares of England that we developed the thoroughbred. And since that time, so that's the mid 1700s, in 1780, they developed a rules of racing. This is on delay. which is so funny. So if there are any Spanish speakers in the audience, forever we called this mare Andeli, but in fact, some of the guys on the farm who are from Mexico, they said, "Oh, that's Andale." And it's like, well, of course it's Andale. That's a much better name than Andele. So anyway, this is Andale, and this is her Liam's Map foal. Liam's Map, I don't think he has a runner in the Derby this year. Okay, so fast forward back. All right, sweet boy. You see, these guys, I should also clarify, these guys are about a month old. These guys were born in late March, early April. And you see, ow, 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 oh, aren't you so cute? Aren't you so cute? Aren't you so cute? So 1780, they develop rules of racing. Comes about because my horse is faster than your horse. Well, no, it's not. Well, let's race. And so rules of racing were established. They also developed the first English Classic, which is called the English St. Leger. It's run in September over now 1 3/4 miles, which is half a mile longer than the Kentucky Derby, which is a great test of endurance. And that was 1770. 10 years later, 1780, they started running the Epsom Derby, that they spell Derby and just mispronounce to Derby, or they might say it the other way. But and the Epsom Derby became really the race to win. It's run over 1.5 miles currently at Epsom, and it became kind of the most prestigious race to win. And so to fast forward, and I guess requisite to a Derby is that it's restricted to 3-year-olds. This is a nurse mare. I think that's a nurse mare, Polly, and her foal out of the mare Effective. So Effective is a mare that we own, and just as it happens, Effective fractured her pelvis about 30 days prior to foaling, and was, thank goodness for the wonderful veterinary care here in Lexington. But she fractured her pelvis, which how you treat a fractured pelvis is that you keep them in limited space in their stall for about 60 days. And so she ended up foaling, having a lovely foal, but she wasn't going to be able to get out and be with the foal as they went through, as they were turned out, because she needed more rest. And so Polly, the nurse mare, who's not a thoroughbred, if you could tell, had her baby about 90 days ago, and she's a different breed, and so they are more resilient than they're just different than thoroughbreds. I shouldn't say resilient, but they're just different. And so anyway, Polly's foal stayed at the farm that helps us with our nurse mares, and we brought Polly here and reintroduced her to Effective's baby, and she loves her like it's her own, which is just the magic, I guess, of horses and horse husbandry. So the Epsom Derby, 1780. There's a minor conflict for Laura, if you teach history, and this conflict going on in the 1770s. And I love to, dream that if it wasn't for the thoroughbred and the growing sport of kings, that the English may have doubled down in Yorktown, and we may still be fighting them today. But instead, thoroughbreds took over and captured the imagination of the kings and queens of England. Hey, look at Wild Silk. Well, aren't you just feeling good? Look how strong he is. That's a nice baby. Wild Silk herself is from a very good family, and she was an okay runner, but not superior. And her first few foals have been really giving you great excitement. And so at this stage and phase, I just love this guy's confidence. But he also has really nice, balance. Hey, I know. You're just so, whoa, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Say, you got to tell him, we aren't ready to be ridden. I don't want to be ridden, and you don't want to be ridden. Come on. Come on. Go on. All right. You're good. You're good. All right. Ooh. Ah. Ooh, ah. There we go. Look at you. How was that? That was a good move over the fence. Because one thing I know is that with only one hand and talking to you all, I can't properly hold the horse. So I sure as heck can't. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Here is my dad, Heedley.
That's right. That is right.
And as you can see here in Kentucky, we have already had a good proper rain this morning. You are just too much. You are too much.
You.
He is a messer.
You. Oh.
So back to our story arc, which has been ever changing. So thoroughbreds are brought to America and raised throughout the United States. And post Civil War, the president of Churchill Downs was a gentleman named Matt Winn, and Matt Winn was an incredible writer, and he wrote incredibly well about the race to win is the Kentucky Derby. And the Kentucky Derby is, the Majestic. It's the most competitive. It's restricted to 3-year-olds, which I believe all derbies are. Getting back to that, and so the Vanderbilts and the Whitneys, who were the biggest breeders in the game at that time, thought that, well, we should move to Kentucky in order to raise our horses and then compete across the country. And so at that time in the, probably 1880s or so, they moved down to Kentucky, bought some land, and started raising thoroughbreds. We were here, we being our family was here, and have been here ever since, raising thoroughbreds as a thoroughbred nursery. So our specialty is that we take horses from conception through high school graduation. And so what I mean by that is that high school graduation is their yearlings. And so as yearlings, here, do you want to walk? Maybe we walk that way to the oldest mares and foals. So we, are you bringing one over?
No, you want me to? I'll do it.
Oh, no.
Oh, you want to walk that way?
Yeah,
okay,
I was just going to walk this way.
You got it. Yes.
Sorry. These are our foaling mares. These are, as you see, we've got 5 left to foal. We've had about 65 so far this year. This gray one here, named Fully Automatic, is likely our next to foal. As you can see, we've got Rigo is watching her, and really when she's going to foal is anyone's guess at this stage of the game. She could really go at any time. And so we're keeping a close eye on her to make sure that she isn't going to break water right now. So while we're speaking about her, what will happen next in her over the next probably 24 hours is that she will break water, and then she will, at that time, we will make sure that the foal presents like Superman. So we want to see two hooves and a face like flying Superman. This is Miss Chapin's baby. For those who have tuned in before, Miss Chapin is a favorite mare on the farm. She's the dam of Coffee Click and Admission Office. And Miss Chapin was 22 years old, and she was she just wasn't thriving towards the end of she just wasn't thriving towards the end of her foaling. So we said, because she's older, we don't want to put any more stress on her, and so we have a nurse mare Molly for her, which is a similar story as the other. And so that is her. And the father of Miss Chapin's foal is Catalina Cruiser, who Mrs. Ammerman, Ms. Chapin is owned by John and Jerry Ammerman, who are great friends and clients. And Mrs. Ammerman felt that Catalina Cruiser, hey, Mary Page, was the most handsome horse outside that she'd seen other than Secretariat. So thus, Miss Chapin is one of her favorite mares. Miss Chapin is, I think, 22 years old. Mares can have foals up until, somewhere between 20 and call it 26, and every year is different, and we assess their health and whether or not they are, suitable for mating every year. And so anyway, Miss Chapin's now been retired, and she will live out her days grazing grass and enjoying that life. We have a couple other retired mares on the farm. We probably have 6, the oldest being about 30 years old, which is awesome. The oldest horse thoroughbred that we've had on the farm that I know of was a a male horse who is a teaser named Robbie, and he lived to be 40 years old, which is really quite remarkable. We're walking from barn 7 with our kind of our medium. I guess that'd be our third batch of foals towards past barn 5, which is our foaling barn. So getting back to fully automatic, and let's pretend like she is going to be our next foaling mare, which she likely is. So when she breaks water, when her body chooses that it's time to, have a baby, she'll break water. We'll go and we'll make sure that the foal presents like Superman. If it presents like Mighty Mouse with one hoof up and one hoof back, then we'll work to get the second hoof up so that they've got both and they can, come out smoothly. But if not, if we can't do that, then we are so lucky to have the best veterinary care in the world between Haggard Equine Medical and Root and Riddle, that we can take mares over to the clinic to have foals there. Earlier this year, we had a foal born by cesarean section, which is, just the magic of technology. That's a great question, Christine. We don't ride the retired mares, but interestingly, nor do we ride any horses on the farm. I'm sure that they could be, but by that stage of their life, it's been, probably 20 years since they've been ridden. So I hope you all can see this. This foal is so funny. She's very much like the Wild Silk, you see how bold and confident she is. Her name is Zia, and her father is Catholic Boy. Catholic Boy is a really exciting young sire who won grade 1s on both dirt and turf. And this mare is from a good family, and this is her, I think, 4th foal. But this girl is very, very confident, and which we love. So getting back to like, what do we do? So we take horses from conception through high school graduation. Well, what does that mean? Well, that's about the first 18 to 20 months of their life. Getting back to what makes a thoroughbred. So you have to trace back to those 3 Arabian stallions. The stallion has to physically impregnate the mare. There's not artificial insemination like there is in some other breeds. And every thoroughbred's birthday in the Northern Hemisphere is January 1st. So the breeding and mares are pregnant for 11 months. And so the breeding season starts in mid-February, romantically Valentine's Day most often, and in sometime in, towards the end of June, depending on how late you want to have a foal the next year. And so we raise them from that stage. Hey there, sweet girl. Hey there, sweet girl. So for this foal was born 3 weeks ago. And as you can see, she's a lovely, lovely foal. You look at that. Lovely foal, nice and strong and confident. And yeah. And so just like all humans, right? So my wife Beth and I have 2 children. We have a 7-year-old George and a 4 3/4, as she would define, year-old named Caroline. And as they get older, they develop, more confidence, right? When they're very young, they obviously are totally dependent on us, but as they've gotten older, they develop more independence, and foals are the same way. You just fast forward it, a lot, a lot more quickly. You see, these are our youngest foals. I believe this is postscript, and I'm sorry and, half embarrassed that I can't tell you them all by sight, but postscript. But as you can see, we have a few that are what you say, plain brown wrappers. So postscript is a mare owned by a wonderful friend named Brooke Smith and Louisvillian. And this is her Oscar Performance foal. So she and Zia are most likely to be buddied up first part of the week. So at this stage, when they're first born, they will spend independent time with their mother, developing kind of a relationship and bonding. And then we'll turn them out with a similarly aged mare and foal, so that they can learn how to socialize. So Zia is a bit unique in how kind of confident she is to walk so far away from her mother. You see, even postscript is, I think, more curious about me than not. But it's really interesting dynamics to watch as mares and foals develop, because you get to see, especially now that I've had children, or we've had children, how they do change. When our children first started in school, we were told or educated, because we hadn't done this before, by their teachers. At a certain stage, we asked, is this when they socialize? And they described that at that stage, which may have been like 2.5 or 3 years old, the children did a lot more shadow playing, where they would play next to their friends, but not necessarily with their friends, as they developed, the confidence to start playing and engaging with each other. Well, we see that in various stages of foals. So the first batch of foals that we saw, Wild Silk and Jewel Thief, they were playing pretty close to their mom. In fact, you could say Wild Silk was more interested in me than her mom, but that's another story. But they were more interested really in their mothers. And even here that we just passed, Postscript and Zia, while they followed me, they certainly are more keen to stay close to their mothers. Now we're going to walk over to our oldest batch of mares and foals, and we're going to see that they like to play with each other a little bit more. And by the summertime, in the next 60 days, June, July, when we start to separate mares from their children with the process of weaning, you will see that they become even more independent and more interested in their friends than their moms. And it's kind of at that moment that we say, okay, let's separate the mothers from their babies. We'll go about that by having a field of 14 mares and foals, and then one day we'll take out 2 or 3 mares, so we'll have 14 foals, 12 mares, and then counting down, within about a week and a half or so, we'll have just one very patient mare and her 14 slightly rambunctious herd. And so then they'll do that for about a week, and then we'll separate that mare, and it'll just be 14 fifth graders with no more real adult supervision. And it's a really fun time of year, because to watch them grow and develop and mature and develop confidence and all those things it's a great time. And all along the way, we are dreaming about the Kentucky Derby, because it's really the race that we all in this business most cherish to win. I believe that the foal crop of 2019, which is when all of the Kentucky Derby, I should say the Kentucky Oaks as well, because as someone who has tasted the lilies, if you will, in 1998 with Keeper Hill, every day we dream of being right back there. But in that year, 2019, we had about 20,000 foals. Thoroughbreds only have one chance to run for the Kentucky Oaks and one chance to run for the Kentucky Derby. And thank you all for bearing with me as I traverse a little bit through the fields to find our oldest batch of mares and foals. So the 20,000 foals born only can do it as a 3-year-old. So that means if they're about half fillies and half colts, then you've got about a 1 in 10,000 chance of winning the Kentucky Derby or the Kentucky Oaks. And that's just in North America. So in this year, we have 2 international. I guess one was born in Kentucky but raced internationally, but one, I guess, Crown Pride, the Japanese-based horse who won the UAE Derby. But otherwise, there are 19 of 10,000 who make the starting gate, and one will be crowned the winner. And so every year, we dream about being that one. We've been so fortunate through our years to associate with, in the last, since 2000, 4 Kentucky Derby, 3 winners and 1 near winner, I guess you'd say. Point Given was a horse that in 2001 ran second to Monarchos and the second fastest Kentucky Derby since Secretariat. Point Given was an unbelievable horse. After that, he won the Preakness, Belmont, Haskell, Travers. I believe he won 5 grade 1s in a row after that. Was named Horse of the Year. He was a horse that we raised for his owners, Ahmed bin Salman and Thoroughbred Corporation. And he, as a foal, was always big and backwards. He was always, there was nothing that would really give you the indication that he was going to be the Horse of the Year and champion that he became. I guess similarly, there's a phenomenal NBA basketball player, Anthony Davis, who brought victory or championships to the University of Kentucky Wildcats. And he too was, a big. Anthony Davis was incredibly talented, but grew a lot. I believe that, if I remember correctly, he grew like 8 inches from high school to college and went from playing point guard to playing center, which is, amazing. And Point Given was kind of the same, right? Like he was a big horse, always growing. And by the time he became a 3-year-old, or really a 2-year-old, he was really precocious and just incredible. I went Randy Cusick, and here's Dad back. Randy Cusick he's one of the best horsemen on the farm and has been with us for about 20 years. No, shoot, 30 years. So we're going to pop this way. So Point Given was a horse that we never recognized his talent because he hadn't demonstrated anything of the like really as here on the farm. We also were associated, similarly, our Kentucky Derby winner that we raised named Giacomo was a lovely horse, always really well balanced, always just a lot of quality, but he wasn't one that you were like, man, that is the best horse that we have on the farm. There goes our veterinarian, which doing our rounds and our house calls, Dr. Jackie Snyder. She actually was a student worker here at Millridge before she started vet school, went to vet school, came and interned here, and then interned at Hagyard and is an integral part of our team. And her husband Bo are both veterinarians, and Bo's actually an equine dentist vet. So his profession is he takes care of horses' teeth. Sorry, this is the sorry. Let's see. There we go. All right, so we're now going to go and see our oldest mares and foals. So Giacomo, again, not necessarily so remarkable as a foal, but blossomed under the patient handling of John Sheriffs to become, I guess our first Kentucky Derby winner. My grandmother had, and I'll tell our Millridge story after this. Dad, one of his professions and one of his really made his mark on our sport and our breed is consulting with owners and breeders on who to breed their mares to. So in our profession, that's called a bloodstock agent, but I consider it more like a Charles Schwab of your equine portfolio. And so after Giacomo won, Dad assisted the Taffel family in doing the mating for Street Sense, who won the 2006 Kentucky Derby. And so Street Sense was raised at Chesapeake Farm by the Nardiello family, and then was the first Breeders' Cup juvenile winner to then also win the Kentucky Derby. Trained by Carl Nafsker, was just incredible horse and still a prominent sire. And then the next year, Dad worked with Mr. and Mrs. Jackson to do the mating for Barbaro, who won the 2007 Kentucky Derby. So from 2000 to 2010, it was really an incredible Derby experience for our family and our farm. And we just feel so blessed to having tasted it and tasted, those moments. And I tell you what, it inspires you every day to get up and work hard to do it again. It certainly gives you such appreciation for how difficult it is, but it also inspires you every day to get up and work hard, taking care of these incredible horses and hopes and dreams of getting back to the Derby. To jump back into what is Millridge. So I think I've roughly covered what is a thoroughbred, but what is Millridge? My great-grandfather, his name was Hal Price Headley, started running the 4,000 acres of Beaumont in the early 19-teens. So you see these guys are all quite a bit bigger than the previous batch. These guys are born in February and in March. February and early March. Let's see. That is baby J. This is, sorry, hey, you're Fiorina. This is our friends from Oklahoma, the Young family. And gosh, this is a gift box foal. And this is Lewis Bay. Here are our first foal. Lewis Bay, who is over here. You see how much more space Lewis Bay is not concerned about. Clearly, she's enjoying grass where her foal is, because it's that much older. And there goes Knit One Per Two in the front of the camera. But Lewis Bay ran second in the Kentucky Oaks too. You see Knit One Per Two is now separated Lewis Bay from her foal. But at this age and phase, that's part of it. They're getting more mature. This is probably like our son George, who's 7 and goes out and plays basketball at the neighbor's house, and we aren't as concerned as we were probably 3 years ago. But anyway, so Lewis Bay, I think she ran second to Catherine Sophia, if I'm not mistaken, and a really good second. And we actually had raised Lewis Bay also for her owners and breeders, Alpha Delta Stable, and she's just a beautiful filly. We tried to sell her on their behalf, and she was not deemed big enough by the market to bring kind of what we felt like she was deserved, and so we sent her to the races, and she almost donned the lilies, but prior to quite a few stakes races, and she's an incredible mare. And this is her, and earned nearly $1 million. This is her Curlin filly. Curlin filly, who is also Curlin is the father of Nest. So, hi Penelope. Do you know if horse owners can request a specific pony for the horse in the post parade? Wouldn't everyone want Harley? That's a great question. I don't know the ins and outs of how that goes, other than it's really a trainer relationship to request those with the pony people. So I don't know how Harley chooses or how Harley's rider chooses which horse she ponies. But she certainly has great taste, because he's certainly a character. One of my favorites is Lava Man. Lava Man was a phenomenal racehorse for Doug O'Neill and his team, and he was in retirement. Lava Man's become like the stable pony, and I believe it was Lava Man who was the pony for I'll Have Another. And so it always felt like, Christina, that's a great question. So the foal, yes, has fuzzy. So that's really its winter coat, and you can see it first starts to lose it around her eyes, and then this will all shed out as the weather gets a little bit as the weather continues to get warm. Oh, look at you. And that is called something technical that I don't know what it's called, but I think of it as like a very fun kind of happy thing when they see, oh, I got a sniff, oh, I got a sniff, oh, look at me. Oh, Beth would give me grief for that. That's like, that's how all horses talk, right? Is that how you all interpret all horses talking? Oh, I got an itch. So on Millridge, sorry. So this is Bassiami Piccola. Hey, Ellen, that's a great question. We farm about 900 acres. We have about 100 mares on the farm. We have about 75 yearlings, and so far we have about 65 foals. Right, and we have about 25 clients, and again, we take care of their mares on their behalf. And so Millridge, so my great-grandfather farmed about 4,000 acres, and my grandmother moved back from Houston with my dad and his brother Reynolds and brother Mike and sister Tish in 1960 to start farming. My grandmother had been in Houston and was really longing to be back in Kentucky and longing to be back with her father, and so she moved. This is a mare named Zavrinka, and her first foal by Oscar Performance. So my grandmother wanted to be back and wanted to be farming with horses and with the land that she'd grown up on, and so they started. They built a barn in 1961, and in 1962 they started to work the land. And then my great-grandfather had a heart attack and died at Keeneland in the March of 1962, which was, certainly sad, and but it was a place that he was very dear to his heart, because he was instrumental in founding Keeneland, raising the money and building the facility that we in our sport are so thankful to enjoy its legacy every day. At that time, my grandmother was then left to figure out, well, what do I do now? She had, uprooted her life in Houston and had wanted to figure out, to raise horses with her father. And when that was no longer an option, she decided to set out and start the farm. And so Millridge was started with 4 mares and at that time 286 acres, and she set out to start raising horses. Those 4 mares she owned. They were offspring and siblings of her father's family that he had been cultivating for a number of years, probably like 50 or 60 years. They hailed back to a great mare named Alcibiades, who was kind of his foundation mare. And in fact, one of Alcibiades, Meenow was not out of Alcibiades. Yeah, Meenow, who was Hal Price Headley's best finish in the Kentucky Derby, was out of a daughter of Alcibiades by a horse named Pharamond II that my great-grandfather had imported from England. And so Meenow is a funny story. I'll jump to it. So my grandmother was one of 6 children, 5 daughters, and then her brother was born, I think, 12 years after her. And so for most of her life, at 12 years, and at that time, at any time, is a big difference, age gap. But so in I think it was 1938. Sound right? 1938 Derby for Meenow. Yeah. So 1938 Derby, Meenow ends up running 3rd. And the story goes, what's that? Maybe 3rd or 4th. But the story goes that in 1937, my grandmother's brother, named Hal Price Headley Jr., was born. And for good luck, because my great-grandfather was very superstitious, for good luck, they cut a lock of his hair and braided it into Meenow's foretop. And so it was meant to give him good luck. Meenow went to the lead of the Derby. He ran his heart out, and he ended up getting passed with a 16th of a mile to go. He was really more of a sprinter, so that was, he really made a game effort to run that far and that fast anyway. But when he got back to the barn to take a bath, they couldn't find the good luck hair. And so after the crowd had left Churchill Downs, they went and walked the track, and they found it right at the 16th pole where he lost the lead, is the way the story goes. So it wasn't until Giacomo in 2005 that we raised a Kentucky Derby winner. So you think about how difficult it is. Every year we'd raise, somewhere between, 5-6 foals to as many as 120 foals. And it had always been, right, it had always been my great-grandfather's dream to win the Derby, like it is most of all of us. And he tried 13 times and was unsuccessful. And so for my grandmother and the team to raise Giacomo in 2005 was an incredible, achievement. And really there's just an incredible achievement and something that we are still so proud of today. 1962, my grandmother had 4 mares, one of which was named Attica. And in 1965, 3 years later, Attica foaled a horse that was a very, by the sire Sir Gaylord, who was a lovely foal, who she sold at Keeneland for $57,000. What, is that wrong? 42. Okay, sorry, I was 15 off. $42,000. And he went on to be champion 2-year-old in England and won the Epsom Derby, which was a significant achievement because at that time, no American bred had been sold at public auction to win the Epsom Derby. And admittedly, the English thought that their breed of horses were better than our breed of horses. And so they thought that they had never really given us much attention. And when my grandmother, and she sold the horse to Bull Hancock, who was the owner of Claiborne, for his client Raymond Guest, who was the ambassador to Ireland. And he was trained by Vincent O'Brien, who is one of the greatest thoroughbred trainers in the world ever. And so, but when this happened, Her Majesty, the Queen, who was captivated by thoroughbreds, if you've seen The Crown or know much about her love. And so she was, struck by the fact that a fellow woman had bred such an amazing horse as Sir Ivor, that she inquired about meeting my grandmother. They met and developed a great friendship, to where, as the Queen, as Her Majesty send horses to America to be raised, they came here to Mill Ridge, as well as a few other farms. And it was a relationship that they enjoyed, throughout my grandmother's life when she passed away last year at the age of 96. So Mill Ridge started as a small seed of 280 acres, which I know doesn't sound that small depending on where you live, and has grown to be we farm about 900 acres. This mare is named Spunderful, which is a great name, and her 3-year-old actually runs this weekend at Belmont, and this is her foal by, I don't think it's Speightstown, because I think the one that's running is by Speightstown. And so anyway, so Mill Ridge, what started as 280 acres, we now farm 900 acres. What started as 4 mares, we now have about 100. And then, oh, you're welcome, Rebecca. But we've continued to, I guess, utilize and inspired by the same practices that, have been successful for generations. My great grandfather was actually the 3rd generation to raise thoroughbreds, so which would make, I think, me the 6th, I think. But it's it's really all about letting horses, be horses, and keeping them kind of in this environment. I hope as you think about, if you have any takeaways, if you're still with us and have any takeaways from today, I do want to impart Secretariat. I hope to continue that horse herd animals. So as you see here with together, Steve and they were in fight or flight. They were given the gift of speed. A horse will reach top speed of 35 miles an hour, 3 jumps from leaving the starting gate, which is quite remarkable. So from 0 to 35 miles an hour in 3 jumps, and that's that gift. So the race is really the manifest of those herd dynamics, right? Establishing, the who is, I'm faster than you are, no, you're not, let's race. The slowest zebra gets eaten by the lion. It's about developing that confidence within the herd, because it's that confidence that we believe will carry them to the finish line first. That confidence and that relationship with us humans to work together to achieve that goal. And in racing, what we breed horses for, that goal is to get to the finish line first, which requires that in the thrill of the moment and in the excitement of the race, when the jockey asks the horse to be patient and wait, that the horse responds, listens, and conserves its energy until it gets to the top of the stretch and is asked to go forward. Then it does so as one team, jockey and horse. And that's what we hope to establish here on the farm in these nursery days, is to keep them competitive, keep them developing confidence within their herd, while at the same time a trusting and understanding and a relationship with humans, to where, like Lewis Bay, who's back again, will come over. Oh, sorry, that is Fiorina. Will come over and say hello out of curiosity. Question was asked, are any related to Secretariat? Yes, many are related to Secretariat. As it turns out, Secretariat is a very prominent broodmare sire. He's the broodmare sire of AP Indy, who, off the top of my head, is the great-grandfather of Upstart, who is the father of Zandon, as an example. AP Indy is a very prominent sire, and so there's a lot of Secretariat blood running through most breds between AP Indy and also the stallion Gone West that we stood in the 1980s. Christina, these foals worked with to be comfortable around people. It's a great question. So when the foal is born, it's typically born at night again. And the next day, after the vet checks it out and makes sure that it's healthy and sound to go be turned out, we will engage ourselves in that relationship between mare and foal. What I mean by that is the next day when they're turned out, we will walk with the foal to its paddock. In Australia, when I worked a breeding season there, they didn't do that. They just led them out because a foal will follow its mare wherever it goes, right? That's the milk house. That's the only thing the foal knows. And so they will follow their mothers wherever they go. But in the way that we do it is that we engage with the foal in that relationship with its mother, so that it establishes a trust. You see all the foals have halters on. That's the leather that's around their head so that we can guide them. And so we'll put halters on at a young age to really get them used to having the halter on and being comfortable walking and being with us. So as you see here, this is, what is this, Fiorina and Lewis Bay? And so you see Lewis Bay is to my right about 15 yards. But at this age, they become comfortable with each other and curious about dad. And so, and it's, for us, and I'm not saying that, there are lots of philosophies and strategies that do it very well. This is just what has worked for us. And what works for us in establishing that confidence within human and horse, because after they leave us, after they quote unquote go, graduate high school, they're taught how to be ridden. And there are people who specialize in teaching them how to be ridden, pre-training. And it's important that we've done our job, that the horses trust us so that they accept human on their back. And for us, that relationship really starts at these early days, and in that confidence and curiosity between horse and human. I could probably talk all day, and my wife Beth would certainly agree with that I can entertain myself, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad quality, but nevertheless. But if there are any other questions, would love to answer any last questions, and if not, let you all Mula, do we imprint the foals at foaling time? We don't. I'm familiar with that tactic in the sport horse world and in other places. As I understand it, you tap on their hooves and you take clippers and kind of introduce them in their ears, and you do things like that and touch their extremities in certain ways. And we don't practice that here, but it's not to say that it's not a wonderful thing, and it would be effective. I'm just not familiar with it. Kate, at what age are they first ridden? So they're first introduced to a rider when they're right before they turn 2. So again, all thoroughbreds in the northern hemisphere turn 1 on January 1st. So about October to November of their yearling year, they'll typically have a rider on their back. Gina, is Giacomo still living? He is living, but I can't. I feel like he went to Canada to become a stallion in Canada, and I don't recall. I'm not exactly sure where he is, but it was not too long ago that we reached out about him and that he was doing very well. Oaks pick, Stephanie. That's tough. I will share that at times in this game you are very led by your own personal interests, and we feel very lucky to have quite a few mares in foal to Upstart this year, and are big believers in him as a stallion who stands at Airdrie. And so admittedly, I'm pulling for Kathleen O. You want to go see Miss Chapin to conclude? Yeah, because Miss Chapin's right over here. I'm pulling for Upstart and Kathleen O and Zandon in the hopes that Upstart has a Derby Oaks double, which I don't know that it's ever been done by a stallion. Yeah. Oh, hey. So this mare, you see, she's got those 2 blue packs on her hooves. But you see, look at oh. I hope that you all saw some of that. She and her, they were scratching each other, helping get that. Oh, mom, I want a little itch. Got a little itch. So anyway, the blue. I mean, that's just a Kodak moment. Do we still say that these days? I guess that we should gram that shot. Maybe is that the new Kodak moment? But so she has the blue on her hooves are where she has a little abscess and is a little foot sore. So an abscess would be like she stepped on a rock, and like if you've ever like hit your finger and had some pressure in your fingernail, that's like what an abscess is. So she's in hoof packs, and oh man, that's so cool. So in the Oaks, pulling for Kathleen O. I'm also pulling for Nest, because the Rapoli team and the Eclipse Thoroughbred team are clients, friends, just incredible. Nest is an incredible horse. She was raised at Ashview Farm by our great friends, the Lister family, who also raised Mo Donegal, which I would love to see them be successful this weekend. We've been friends since we were in elementary school, and they're just great, great people. We're so lucky in this business to have incredible friends. I mean, if you participate in the sport, you care about horses, you care about land, you care about each other. And so truly love to see success by whoever wins, and just have more personal relationships. Certainly with the team at Ashview, they're a small family operation. So the idea that they have two good horses to run in the that could be winners of the Oaks and the Derby is just awesome. Oh, sorry, we're going to do one more climb. Oh, don't. Ooh. To come see Miss Chapin. So you saw Miss Chapin's foal with a nurse mare, and here she is. And she is certainly a star of the farm. She is I think I want to say she's 22, 23 years old. One of her great traits is she's always been able to get her halters off. And so you see she does not have a halter. Donna, it's a great question. So we have barns. We don't, and depending on the weather type and depending on the age of the horse, we'll put them in the barns at nighttime for storms. But truly, they're adaptive to storms that most often we'll leave them out. It's really the horses, like if they're young and we're going to get a freezing rain, then we will put them in the barn just because they just get cold, and you'll end up getting coughs and things like that. So we will put certain horses in barns for storms, but for the most part, we leave them out. We find that they've been given gifts to weather the storm, no pun intended. And when it's raining or, bad winds, they will turn their back end into the weather, so that the rain kind of breaks up over their back and then it hits their mane and it's broken up, and they'll kind of squint their eyes so that they don't get rain in their face. So, but we do have barns, and again, depending on the age and stage of the foal or the mares and the horses, we'll bring them in. So, but this is Miss Chapin. So Miss Chapin's by herself right now, and then she'll be turned out with another retired mare here in the next couple of weeks. But she's got lots of lush grass to enjoy, and you see how well she looks. We just felt like we just didn't want her to go through any stress.
To celebrate the Ammermans, this is Ms. Ammerman's favorite mare.
Yeah, and this is as Dad said, this is Mrs. Ammerman's favorite mare. One of them. She has a couple of really incredible mares So with that, team, I think we'll sign off. If you have any other questions, you can visit us at visithorseCountry.com to Millridge. Check out our website, millridge.com. We are reactivating a newsletter that we try and put out monthly that shares about goings on the farm. But really, we feel so privileged to be able to do this every day, and we love to share. So if we can help you understand more about thoroughbreds, understand more about Kentucky, we want to do that, just because we, feel so privileged to be able to do so, and are so passionate about the sport and about our horses. So with that, cheers to a safe race, a wonderful weekend of racing, and hope that you all have a great day. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your Friday, and hope that from here you can enjoy the rest of your Oak Day traditions.